environmental sustainability. And we would have debaters from Olabisi Onabanjo University and Lagos State University. So I'll be calling on the proposition team, the team from the Olabisi Onabanjo University. The first speaker, I would be welcoming Ogunkilede Olamijulo Ayomide. Please remember, you have 5 minutes for your opening argument, and there is a timer right there in front. Keep an eye on it.
There's a story in my head, a story of a family of 3, where they rely on the father as the sole provider. One sunny afternoon, the father came into the house with a sad face. He just received a sack letter from his boss at work. The family's economy has crumbled and they can no longer afford to send their child to school. Nigeria can be likened to that family, with our sole provider being oil produce. What happens when oil receives a sudden sack letter from global consumers? The economy of this nation will crumble. My story would have been different if the family had 3 or other sources of revenue, farming or maybe a side hustle. However, the family would have been more resilient and future ready. Nigeria, in the same vein, has the opportunity to invest in renewable energy to ensure diversification of our economy and a more stabilized economy. Panel the House. Ogunkilede Olamijulo is my name, and I'm a student of Olabisi Onabanjo University. I'm here to support the fact of this motion that states that renewable energy investment should be prioritized over further oil exploration to ensure Nigerian economic and environmental sustainability. According to Chandra Ashri Group, renewable energy can be defined as an energy source that is derived or obtained and can be leveraged continuously. In order to establish our stance in this debate, it is key to know that first, today's debate is not about abandoning oil exploration overnight. No, it's about 2 things. First, prioritization, and second, long-term economic and environmental sustainability. Nigeria cannot keep digging deeper into the soil when we have abundant renewable resources, which includes sun, wind, and solar. Sun, wind, and hydropower across board. In order to support our stance of the motion, the supporting side will present to you a triangle upon which we will examine 3 key angles why we believe that renewable energy investment should be prioritized. The first angle is economic diversification and stability. According to Statista in 2023, Nigeria's breadwinner, oil production, accounted for about 5.5% of the country's GDP rate and also accounted for about 92% of all exports across the country. Our biggest consumers include the United States of America, France, and the Netherlands. Now imagine that those 3 countries place an embargo on oil products coming from Nigeria. What will happen? It seems unimaginable. But with the global trend towards sustainability, it is very conceivable. Depending on oil alone, is like standing on 1 foot. Every shake or every decision made by the global economy can make our economy in this country stumble. However, investing in renewable energy sources like solar energy and hydropower is like standing on 2 feet, making us to be very balanced. We are not saying abandon the breadwinner of the country, but saying give renewable energy a choice and chance to reach its full potential through proper investment. This takes us to our second angle in this debate: national access to electricity and cleaner energy resource. Nigeria's electricity problem has never been one of demand, but one of an inadequate supply of electricity in the country. According to an article published in energypedia.info, the Nigerian electricity supply industry said that Nigeria has a capacity or an installed capacity of about 11,000 megawatts across the country, yet only 7,100 megawatts is available for use in the country. Meanwhile, small petrol and diesel generators have supplied about 14,000 megawatts to the whole country, which is almost double what the national grid offers us. These statistics revealed 2 realities. First, there is an energy supply gap in Nigeria that can be bridged with proper investment in renewable energy. And second, we can replace the noisy generators that have only caused harm to our environment with renewable sources. By redirecting our investment to renewable energy sources, such as building dams, more dams, and even investing to subsidize solar panels, the country will move from a position of being power deficient to becoming power sufficient, and not only power sufficient, to become a power supplier to other countries in the world, not long term. The final standpoint of the supporting side is that prioritizing renewable energy investment would help us to achieve long-term national security and health. Oil exploration is not just an activity. It's not just an economic activity. It is a source of suffering and crisis. Communities in the Niger Delta can attest to this. According to the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, Oil Spill Watch, there were about 589 oil spills recorded in the Niger Delta region, recorded across Nigeria. Yeah. This means two things. There was a lack of access to clean health and environment, which is a basic right under the third generation of human rights. And people don't also have access to clean energy and source of income, which is fishery. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude this debate, I want to reiterate what I said at the start of this debate. Today's debate isn't about abandonment of oil exploration. It's about two things. First, prioritization. And second, long-term economic and environmental sustainability. Thank you.
I believe it is. Thank you for clapping for our first debater. I believe it is safe to say that we are off to a great start. I'll be calling on the opposition team from Lagos State University, Sahid Sunday, first speaker, to take their opening argument. Remember, you have 5 minutes and the timer is right in front of you.
Imagine today's topic as a courtroom, and today's topic as our case. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, my teammate and I will come here today to not only strengthen our case with both logic and fact, but also ensure to debate, to win. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this court of appeal. Today's case is about who is going to ensure economic stability or environmental sustainability better between two people. One, the plaintiff, which is renewable energy investment, or the defendant, which is oil restoration. You see, today's case is about which one exactly is going to be better. Judges and observers of this court of appeal, good day. Said Sunday is my name. For the purpose of today's debate, call me Esquire SS, counsel for the defendants, as I'll be opposing today's case about why renewable energy should not be prioritized with 5 exhibits, along with my teammates. Exhibit 1, renewable energy is expensive. You think about it this way. Audience, let's do a quick engagement. If I ask you to prioritize food over sleep, what do? Do you eat more and sleep less? Or do you eat and stop sleeping? Just like this question, today's debate is not asking us whether we should use oil and abandon renewable energy, or whether we should use renewable energy and abandon oil. Today's debate is about looking into the current state of the country and deciding which one is more important. And on this side of the bench, we pick oil exploration. Judges, the major reason why the opposition wants us to prioritize renewable energy is because they believe that it is environmentally sustainable. But remember, to prioritize renewable energy demands money. But according to Statista, on November 5th, 2024, Nigeria currently relies on the oil sector for 92% of its annual export value. Now, this is the logic. If A equals to B and B equals to C, then A equals to C. If renewable energy demands that we have money, and Nigeria relies on the oil sector to make money, then the implementation of renewable energy is dependent on the prioritization of oil. Audience, I may not be the judge, but this truth I know for sure. Exhibit 2, the implementation of renewable energy in Nigeria is expensive. Judges, can I ask you to take just a moment and guess exactly how much it will cost Nigeria to totally function on renewables? Did you guess 5 trillion naira? 50, 500? You see, according to a study by Yale University, it is going to cost about $4.5 trillion to totally switch to renewables. That is expensive because it is about 6.9 quadrillion Nigerian naira, and that is not something we can currently afford. Judges and audience, think about it this way. Yes, renewable energy is going to create job opportunities in Nigeria. However, because Nigeria currently does not fully operate on renewables, it means we have to create a sector, a training to teach Nigerians who are going to take up these job opportunities, which is going to cost us money. And before that, when these people become experts in these jobs, we move from paying for their trainings to paying for their salaries, which is going to cost us a lot of money. But judges, what is more than a lot is a lot more, because we have to pay more money to ensure that we account for economic stability in this particular country. Audience, I may not be the judge, but this truth I know for sure, that the Nigerian economy is already bad as it is, and today's debate is about a policy that is going to make it better, not one that will worsen it. Exhibit 3, renewable energy is a complete scam. Audience, if you think about it this way, if a policy has good implementation but bad environmental impact, then we should not think about it. If the policy has bad implementation but good environmental impact, then we should not be quick to say yes to it. Has bad implementation but good environmental impact is a policy that has bad environmental impact and bad implementation, and that is what renewable energy looks like. Think about it this way. What 2 thoughts in your mind? 1, metal. 2, aluminium. According to a 2022 study by Nature Physics, it estimated that by 2050, the methods that are used to produce solar panels could generate 78 million tons of waste globally. Doesn't stop there. According to the International Energy Agency, it also estimated that by creating 1 ton of aluminium, we are generating about 58 million tons of carbon dioxide back into the environment, which actually affects our environment. Now, this is it. Renewable energy can be achieved through solar panels. Or solar panels are manufactured through aluminium and metals, 2 things that actually affect our environment. Now, is it not quite ironic that the same renewable energy that our opponents say that will solve this environmental crisis is the same renewable energy that's actually adding to it? Audience, I may not be the judge, but this truth I know for sure. If renewable energy cannot solve the environmental crisis in Nigeria and doesn't give us as much money as the oil sector, then why exactly should we prioritize over the oil sector that gives us more money? So this is our recommendation. How about Nigeria focuses its money on getting new technology instead, like imaging equipment that allows you to see into what is being underground. And by this way, when you know exactly where to dig, it gives us more leverage about knowing exactly where to, it gives us more precision to show that we don't actually reduce these oil spillages that come. The courtroom rests its case. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so we'll call on the second speaker from the Olabisi Onabanjo University. Please put your hands together for Rachel Adetola. Remember, you have 3 minutes and the timer is in front of you.
Great Nigerian student, our dear motherland stands at crossroads. She is caught between the devil she knows and the savior she's yet to accept. Oil, a resource that has powered our economy for decades but has left in its wake a trail of gas flares, aborted dreams, contaminated hair, and an economy that trembles when oil prices sneeze. Conversely, renewable energy, abundant, clean, job providing, and future proof. Hence the conundrum, renewable energy or oil exploration. Ladies and gentlemen, it is high time we stop digging our own grave and prioritize harnessing the sun, wind, and water that flows in our lands. Renewable energy is not just an option, it is Nigeria's lifeline to a clean, safe, and sustainable future for all. Daniel Diaz, Rachel Adetola for the Olabisi Onabanjo University. And we are here to defend the prioritizing of renewable energy over oil exploration. Team proposition is not saying abandon oil in its entirety. We're only saying prioritize clean and abundant energy and healthy living for all. To further establish our stance, I have 2 focal lenses. Lens 1, environmental sustainability and renewed climate commitment. The exploration of oil and gas in various local communities has led to a depletion of our ecosystems. According to the Climate Justice Central, the Niger Delta suffers a devastating spillage of 40 million liters of oil annually, which has led to multiple loss of lives, loss of livelihoods, blocking rivers, and the constant release of poisonous particulates into the atmosphere. Renewable energy, by contrast, creates a safe and clean pathway without the toxic of oil extraction. Nigeria can leverage on this by expanding mini solar grids, which will reduce focus on fuel-powered generators that cost Nigeria $14 billion annually. Also, by focusing on renewable energy, Nigeria is able to fulfill our climate commitment, one of which is the Paris Agreement, which has a goal to reduce global warming to below 2 degrees Celsius. Lens 2. Renewable energy is not just an environmental necessity. It is an important tool for technological advancement and innovation. Transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy has spurred groundbreaking research in energy space and effective power systems, thereby creating splittable benefits and employment opportunities across different sectors. It is a tried fact that China is one of the world's leading economies. This is not only as a result of the homogeneous wealth creation, but as a result of heavy investment in renewable energy. Ladies and gentlemen, while oil may have fueled our past, renewable energy will power our future. By focusing on renewable energy, Nigeria would attract foreign direct investment, which will boost the economy and push her to great heights. Renewable energy is a triple cycle. It advances technology, stimulates innovation, and secures socio-economic growth. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we'll call on the second speaker from Lagos State University, David Obadimeji. You have 3 minutes and the timer is right in front of you.
Once upon a time, there were two villages involved in trade that had a wooden bridge connecting them for the transportation of goods. But soon enough, this bridge started to get weaker and it started to break. So the two villages came together to build a new, stronger bridge instead of fixing the old one. But unfortunately, before they could complete the new bridge, the old bridge collapsed, and they lost their only source of transportation and their source of revenue from trade. Judges, observers of this court of appeal, Obadimeji David is my name, co-counsel for the defendant, oil exploration. And this story is a description of what will happen if we choose to prioritize renewable energy over oil exploration. Because oil is the old bridge that currently sustains us. And I have two more exhibits to present. The first, increased illegal mining and exploration. Audience, criminals, and black market operators will immediately take advantage of the demand for oil because that will not disappear overnight. And what happens is that the revenue gotten from oil no longer goes to the economy, it goes to the criminals in the black market. And what is worse is that the unsafe refining and exploration of this oil will lead to further oil spillages and harm the environment, ultimately worsening the problem that we intend to solve. Exhibit 5. Oil brings in immediate profits that renewable energy does not. You see, oil is the backbone of Nigeria's economy because the majority of our export value comes from oil. And Statista reported in 2024 that Nigeria was the 8th largest exporter of oil in the world. Think about it this way. Every single barrel of oil that we sell brings in immediate profits into the economy. This profit is then used to invest in our infrastructure. However, renewable energy does not bring in immediate profits to the economy. In fact, it requires significant upfront investment and years of development before it starts to generate profits. And even worse, Nigeria does not yet have the manufacturing base, skilled workforce, or the infrastructure to make it sustainable quickly. Audience, we can still achieve economic sustenance and environmental sustainability with oil. But these are our recommendations. First, improve regulation so that oil exploration is done safely with less harm to the environment. And secondly, improve transparency so that the revenue gotten from oil is used to fund sustainable infrastructure for the future. This way, we do not collapse the bridge that we currently stand on before we build the one for tomorrow. With this, co-counsel hereby rests his case. Thank you.
Thank you. We have heard very interesting arguments from both sides. So I'd call on Olabisi Onabanjo University to give their closing argument. You have 1 minute.
All protocols duly observed. The first thing I must note, that must raise to the observation of the audience is that, first, the opposition has failed to acknowledge the global market shifts towards sustainability. Everything that the opposition here said was what was going on in the country. And they claimed that Nigeria had 92% of exports, especially focusing on oil produce. They never showed us what will happen if the global world says that they no longer want oil products. What are the alternatives? The alternatives is what? Renewable energy. Nigeria draws too much on exports, and we are saying that we want to build a sustainable environment for ourselves so that even if we do not export things, we have things to rely on. They said renewable energy is too expensive. It is a situation of if we can, we will. Earlier this year, the director of the Energy Commission of Nigeria said that the Aso Rock claimed that 47 billion yearly in power bills is too expensive. And so President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approved 10 billion naira budget for the solar power grid to power the presidential villa. This only means two things. Oil has fueled the Aso Rock in the past, but renewable energy will power its future. Thank you.
All right, well done, Olabisi Onabanjo University. We would now call on Lagos State University for their closing remark. Remember, you have 1 minute.
Panel, my opponents come here with a lot of beautiful points, but their points are full of buts, and their buts are rebuttals. But one, my opponent mentioned that oil contributes very little to Nigeria's overall GDP. However, let's make it clear that oil contributes 92% to Nigeria's overall export revenue, which means that oil is our biggest foreign exchange, which means that the crash of oil is the crash of the Nigerian naira. but 1. Reported, but 2. My opponent also mentioned that oil contributes to environmental degradation. However, we have already established the fact that because solar panels and hydro energy requires materials like metals and aluminium, which create waste and emit carbon dioxide to the environment, this means that this whole particular renewable energy also contributes to the environmental degradation. But 2. Reported, but 3. They mentioned that renewable energy is able to renew itself, which is different from oil. That fluctuates sometimes, however. Judges, may I remind you of the several instances where Kanji Dam actually dries up, or whenever Nigeria weather fluctuates, I cannot charge it solar panels. But 3, reported, panel, as I successfully reported or reported in our opponent's speaker, we say that panel, what Nigeria needs now are not solar panels. Thank you.
All right, please put your hands together for Olabisi Onabanjo University and Lagos State University for that round 1. Fantastic. All right, so I'll hand the microphone over to our judges for their feedback.
All right. Interesting points raised by the debaters in the first round. It's important, however, to note that with a lot of data that has been used in the course of defending their points, it's important to stress the fact that some of this data needs to remain consistent with reality. Someone cited Statista of 2003. Someone cited Statista of 2009. I also have people bring up figures that are not essentially correct with where they are citing from. I'm sure that earns quite some marks or gets you, some debits of marks. However, fantastic debate all through. Debaters came up with their A game. Unfortunately, some did not, create the scenarios properly that they would have loved to create. For instance, we have the debaters from University of Lagos State University who did not create their court scenario almost appropriately well, even though that seems to be a very, very good scenario to want to create. Very important to note that all protocols duly observed is not tenable. You either create yours or you do not stand anywhere, because you cannot observe protocols that you do not create. You need to create as little protocols as you want to use, or you do not use any at all. In the long run, yes, beautiful debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for our judges. I'd like to reiterate the learning point there. All protocols duly observed does not exist. All protocols duly observed does not exist. You have to create your own protocols and stand on them. Don't observe any protocol that has been, created previously. Okay, so we'll be moving on to round 2 of the debates, and our topic for this round is constitutional reforms should be mandated to allow independent candidacy and diaspora voting ahead of the 2027 elections. We'll be having a team from the University of Ibadan and all right, thank you. It's okay, it's all right. And the University of Ilorin. All right, let's get right into it. I will be calling on the first speaker of the proposition team, the University of Ibadan. Please make welcome Kayode Favor Damilola. You have 5 minutes.
Nigeria's journey to democracy was a hard-fought battle against military regime. A victory that was a victory that was a collective yearning for self-governance. In those early days, the existence of political parties was a triumph. The existence of political parties was a triumph. A system we all needed. But today, the party systems, which was once a symbol of our democratic awakening, have become a cage. Good day, esteemed judges, precise timekeeper, my thoughtful co-debaters, ladies and gentlemen, and patriotic Nigerian citizens. My name is Kayode Favor, representing University of Ibadan. Today, I am saying yes to the motion that constitutional reforms should be mandated to allow independent candidacy and diaspora voting ahead of the 2027 elections. Now, it is important that we rightly understand this topic. According to the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, a constitutional reform is the comprehensive review and change of a country's constitution and fundamental laws. According to the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, an independent candidate is one who is not nominated by any registered political party, but who meets specific fair criteria to stand for election and offer the electorate a choice on diaspora voting. The Venice Commission, Europe's leading advisory board on constitutional law, defines this as the entitlement of citizens abroad to vote, which requires the state to make the necessary arrangements for them to do so. It is a matter of right and state obligation. With a clear understanding of this topic, we must ask, why is this reform essential now? Let's take a trip back in time. The 2015 elections, despite being historic for its peaceful transfer of power, was overshadowed by allegations of intimidation and the partisan alignment of security agencies. The 2019 elections were characterized by widespread incidents of vote buying and violence, and the 2023 elections, despite technological improvements, were deeply entangled in controversies over result transmission and judicial outcomes. I have no doubts that my opponents have also studied this event, and we identified godfatherism, thuggery, and violent politicking, amongst others, as core issues of Nigeria's electoral system. I agree, but that is not the point of today's debate. At its core, the real issue affecting Nigeria's electoral system is the absence of trustworthy and independent institutions. Again, the real and core problem affecting Nigeria's electoral system is the absence of trustworthy and independent institutions. I mean, think about it. Godfatherism flourishes because party institutions have been rigged by individuals. Political violence thrives in today's world because the electoral institution is perceived as unaccountable. Voters' apathy persists because people have lost faith in the electoral system. It all boils down to an institutional problem. Therefore, our solution must strike at the root, not mere branches. Ladies and gentlemen, this explains why independent candidacy and diaspora voting is so important. It is a necessary defiance, a movement that tackles the problems of compromised institutions from the very root. This reform cripples the power of the corrupt monopolies that we have dealt with for so long by telling the masses we have alternatives. You don't have to settle for less every time. You don't have to pick the lesser evil. It allows those who truly have interest for the masses to run for offices without bowing to the wills of corrupt monopolies and gatekeepers. Moving on, we are not the pioneers of these ideologies. Ghana, for instance, has successfully integrated diaspora voting to nations like Italy and Indonesia. Kenya also piloted independent candidacy in its 2010 constitution, and this move forced parties to become more accountable to the people, or fear being bypassed. In fear, my opponents might emphasize that the 2027 timeline is too short to expect results, thereby making the reforms flawed. I agree that the timeline is indeed short, but yet again, that is not the problem. The real issue is that the 2027 elections are a necessary and urgent starting point, not to get exceptional results, but to finally sow the right seeds of change in our electoral systems. My opponents, yet again, might argue that and propose other series of alternative reforms. They will suggest better training for INEC staff, amongst others. On the surface, these are not bad ideas in themselves, but at the end of the day, they all constitute a fatal flaw. That means that at the end of the day, we have to include compromised institutions to
All right. Greatest Jewites. Okay. just wanted to be sure who the culprits were. Thank you for responding. Please let us try and maintain decorum when the debaters are speaking. Please let us try to ensure decorum when the debaters are speaking. Because if you make noise, you will distract them. They will forget their points. And they will not represent you the way you want them to represent you and the way they have prepared to represent you. So please, let's keep that in mind. Would now call on the first speaker from the University of Ilorin, Eunice Ojochebe. Amen. You have 5 minutes. The timer is in front of you.
Audience, do not be deceived. Let's take you back in time to 2023 election, where INEC registered 18 political parties, but in reality, only APC, PDP, and Labour Party were dominant. What happened after that? We saw chaos. We saw endless court cases, and even the Twitter banters. If INEC could not effectively manage just 3 political parties, which is their responsibility according to part 1 of the 3rd schedule of paragraph F of the Constitution of Nigeria, how will they effectively manage adding additional hundreds, thousands of independent candidates in this flawed electoral system? Standing on the existing protocol, I am Eunice Ahmed from the University of Ilorin, and I strongly oppose the motion that constitutional reforms should be mandated to allow for independent candidacy and diaspora voting ahead of the 2027 election. Now, let me educate you. Constitutional reform is the amendment of the Constitution. Independent candidacy is a system that allows individual candidates contest for a political seat without the backing, structure, and accountability of a political party. Diaspora voting is simply allowing that your uncle who lives abroad but doesn't understand the situation of Nigeria that we face the right to vote. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, mandating simply means forceful implementation without gradual process of flexibility. Today, my partner and I will show you the challenges of these reforms, our priority as a nation, and the solution for the present-day Nigeria. First, let's look at the challenges of independent candidacy. Mandating independent candidacy without a fully functional system leads to ballot overcrowding, voters' confusion, and only favors the wealthy individuals. You think one proposition has been trying to argue is that independent candidates, you see, will weaken godfatherism, it's going to expand voters' choices and empower citizens. But we say no, elections are expensive, and even the elections can only be afforded by wealthy individuals, making independent candidacy a game that favors billionaires and not truly empowers the citizens. Now, throughout America's over 200 years of democracy, only one independent presidential candidate ever won. Chances are very slim that independent candidates will ever win, which reduces even our incentives to allow them. In 2023, for diaspora voting, it is unrealistic and impractical ahead of 2027 election. Now, note the clause ahead. In 2023, INEC registered 93 million voters, but only 23 million voted due to missing PVCs, malfunctioning BVAs, and so on. Now, allowing 17 million Nigerians abroad to vote, why this problem still persists, is like inclusivity without credibility, which will lead to instability. It looks good on paper, but I prophesy failure in real life. Let us draw lessons from Ghana, which they have brought, who passed laws to allow diaspora voting, but struggle to implement them, as captured by Daily Guide Network. Now to our nation's priority. Why these reforms are desirable, they are unwise and risky ahead of 2027 election. They distract from the deeper issue, which they have agreed, fixing Nigeria's broken electoral system and strengthening our electoral institutions. Finally, as change makers, whose voices has been unmuted, who leave Africa's enabling platform to speak for the Nigeria that we want, we say, let us support the advocacy for the independence of INEC. This will help for a credible election ahead of 2027. Give INEC full autonomy in their funding and leadership. Set up an independent panel to appoint INEC chairman. This will allow transparency, create free and fair election, build public trust, ensure accountability, and truly strengthen our democracy. Individual candidacy and diaspora voting can wait. We should fix this system first. They keep on talking about the benefits or they keep on, see, this debate is not about individual candidacy or party system. It's about what is best for Nigeria ahead of the 2027 election. And panel, ladies and gentlemen, we from the Better by Far University have given you the solution for Nigeria. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'd like to reiterate again that we should please maintain decorum when the debaters are speaking so that we don't distract them. Thank you. All right, so we'll call on the second speaker from the University of Ibadan. Please put your hands together for Ogunjobi Taiwo Emmanuel. You have 3 minutes and the timer is in front of you.
Distinguished guests, honorable judges, my fellow debaters, ladies and gentlemen, I am Taiwo Ogunjobi from the University of Ibadan, and I affirm that constitutional mandation should be allowed to allow for independent candidacy and diaspora voting ahead of the 2027 election. My first speaker has laid the foundation, and I will build on that, stating that the independent candidacy and diaspora voting will ultimately lead to the reformation of our electoral system. Here's why. According to the INEC 2023 post-election report, the biggest threat to the Nigerian democracy is apathy, and the 2023 election perfectly illustrated this, because out of 93.4 million registered voters, over 68 million did not go out to vote. Why? Because they've lost trust in our electoral system. Now, this our reform can change the story. That is why we need to allow for independent candidacy, so that the independent candidate can be trusted, can gain the trust of the people. Now, this will restore voters' confidence, which is crucial because the citizens stop believing their voices matter. Then democracy becomes an empty hand. Furthermore, an interesting fact, according to a 2023 report by the National Bureau of Statistics, Nnamdi Azikiwe was president at 42 years. Tafawa Balewa became prime minister at 48. Yakubu Gowon became head of state at 31, and Obasanjo became the head of state at 39. However, in today, the average age of the Nigerian political leader is 60, and due to strong barriers like godfatherism and the high cost of nomination forms, it has made it so difficult for youth to take on positions in the electoral offices. Our reform will take away these barriers and give our leaders of tomorrow the chance to effectively position themselves in the rooms that matter. However, to make the reform as effective as possible, I recommend that for diaspora voting, INEC should test the voters in 5 to 10 high population diaspora countries, and also use verified signatures across states to ensure the eligibility and reliability of independent candidates. Now, I also recommend that we prioritize transparency over speed, because by making every step visible to the public, as this will encourage massive participation in the long run. Finally, at this point, I must state that while the opponents are trying so hard to reform our look as unreliable, we see it as an insurance for the future, beginning at the 2027 election. So even if we do not see the fruits today, this reform will ensure that there is hope for tomorrow. We all have a choice here today. Therefore, we need to choose which system we need to work with. Do you want to stay and suffer and wait and move forward? Thank you.
Interesting arguments. All right, we would have the second speaker from the University of Ilorin. Please put your hands together for Salako Kwayemi. Hallelujah. Keep clapping up. Gets here. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Try teaching a child how to spell words without first teaching them the alphabet and make the foundation of a word, the A, B, C, D that we know, and see how fast you will fail. Panel, I would like to assert these claims about the bills that my opponents have laid before us. According to Punch newspaper, a public hearing has been scheduled for September 22nd, 2025. For the diaspora bill, still in the committee stage in the House of Rep. And the independent candidacy bill that has only undergone the second hearing in the Senate House. We have all seen this through the simulation that we saw yesterday. So what do we mean? Even if all legislative actions are rushed, The only time this bill can be enacted is January 2026. I know we all agree with me. So what are we saying? Will INEC build logistics and systems overnight after failing for several years? Or will funding appear like magic? That is impossible. Honorable panel and my audience, I am Salako Hallelujah, the second speaker for the opposition. The first speaker has planted a seed, and I would like to water it. Nigeria's debt exceeds 149 trillion according to the DMO 2025, rising by 22.8% annually according to the Business News. INEC still spent 305 billion in the last election, and diaspora voting will cost 3 to 4 times this according to the IFES. Let's do the math. 305 times 4, that is 1.22 trillion naira. Are we really ready to allocate for these small billions into a reforms that won't work? Now I will tell you why. The Not Too Young Act that was mandated in 2018, within 2 years, has it been established? What did we see? Futility. Have you seen a 30-year-old governor or a 35-year-old president? It's a no. So what are we saying? Let's cite the same Kenya highlighted by my opponent. They used 7 years preparation, 5 years after this reform. Yet Kenya International Electoral Board Commission 2025 still asserts that they faced a lot of glitches and delays. So what is our solution? My voice as a chain maker. The solution first is an electoral act mandating the independence of INEC. Give them autonomy. There's no transparency in the system. My opponent already agrees with me that we don't trust this system anymore. So why cut the branches when you can uproot the tree? Furthermore, instead of campaigns that favors people with deep pockets, let's advocate for town hall meetings and debate where citizens will be able to ask their president questions. Let's not talk about the pocket, but the track record. Inclusivity without credibility will lead to stability. The Nigerian we want can be built. Why should we rush it? Let's stop pouring water into baskets. Instead, let us build the baskets. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're moving to the closing arguments now, and I'll call on University of Ibadan to please give their closing arguments.
My opponents mentioned a couple of points, including institutions, which I emphasized as the core problem of Nigeria's electoral system. She mentioned that we should strengthen INEC, but INEC itself is not a thoroughly independent institution. This means that when we strengthen INEC, voters' apathy will still continue, regardless of strengthening INEC. It does not change anything. Again, my opponents mentioned that this reform will not work, in her words, because the Not Too Young to Run reform did not work. This is fallacious. She's equating a 1 to 100. This her claim is not based on any verifiable facts. She can't prove that this reform will not work. Again, I mentioned timeline, that the 2027 timeline is too short, and some countries use 7 years to prepare. This 2027 timeline is not to enforce that in all the countries that Nigerian diasporas are living. It is to ensure that for 5 to 10 countries.
We'll now take the closing argument from the University of Ilorin. You have 1 minute.
Panel, the proposition has agreed with us on one thing, which is weak electoral institution. But what they disagree with us is a solution. We say strengthen INEC with independency, and they say independent candidacy and diaspora voting. But they have failed to practically show us how this independent candidacy and diaspora voting will be funded ahead. They missed the clause ahead of 2027, and until they do that, we win today's debate. Thank you.
All right, please put your hands together once more for the University of Ibadan and the University of Ilorin. We will now take feedback from our judges.
I know that we are having great time, right? But it will be good for us to take take note of some critical things. As you present your points and holding your phones and reading from your script, it depicts that you didn't prepare very well. And I think you can do better. So even when you come up here to rebut issues, you have listened to your opponent. Even if you had a quick check while sitting down, just drop your phone and come and present your point. We will get that. So we believe you will do better. In addition to that, while you cite your references, please do it in today's context. You are speaking about during the democratic rule, you had 35, someone representing us at 20 or at 35 or at 30. This is a democratic regime. You also need to acknowledge that in your point. So while you are citing your references, also tell us, someone talked about daily guide network. I'm asking myself, what is that? So if you are saying Daily Guardian, of when or which day of the Daily Guardian are you citing, so that we will be sure that you are doing that appropriately. I believe we're having a great discussion. But one point I also want to highlight, while we make discussions on how we'll get resources, and I smiled while someone was presenting, we don't have enough resources to do this. And some other person comes to say, if we have over 100 people identifying to be a candidate on an individual level, is that not creating more resources for us to hold our elections? Think about that. So please, thank you very much.
Sorry, to probably quickly chip in, even though I would have loved Dr. Stephen Lafenwa to have a word or two here, being an expert in that field, I would have loved the debaters to include what exactly is happening at the moment. The House of Representatives 2025 as at March has proposed a limit age of 60. I was expecting that you would have cited that as, one of your strongest points. Yes, and then you wrongly quoted the Not Too Young to Wrong bill on the ages that were proposed for presidents and governors. That's not too nice. You want to let us support. Debates are not meant for us to support. Debates are meant for you to tell us points that will convince us support, not you telling us to support you. Again, it is almost criminal. It's almost a criminal act to read from your book or your phone in a debate. It's almost a criminal. You can be prosecuted as a debater if care is not taken, if you read from a book or your phone in a debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for our judges. You can be prosecuted for that. All right, we'll go right into round 3. And our topic says, tax reform policies deepen regional inequalities and should be suspended until equitable frameworks are established. And we would have teams from Federal University of Technology, Akure, that's FUTA, and the Kwara State University. Now, before I call on our debaters, I want to reiterate once more, let us maintain decorum when the debaters are speaking. Otherwise, I'll have to call on the chief whip to please help us enforce some of these things and unseat certain people when they disrupt our debates, okay? All right, so let's call on the first speaker of the proposition team, the Federal University of Technology, Akure. Please make welcome Emmanuel Adebayo.
On your marks, set, go. Lagos is at the front, Jigawa is at the back. Why? Lagos has good boots, but Jigawa, they're running barefoot and it's a marathon. They will never make it. Ladies and gentlemen, members of this honorable house, the assembly, my name is Emmanuel Adebayo Abimbola, representing the Federal University of Technology, Akure, and this is my proposition. We're going to do two things in terms of setting the body in today's debate. Understand, we would show you from proposition how these tax reform policies systematically push the poor to become poorer and why suspension of this reform is the way to go. But secondly, opposition has to defend why these tax reforms are things that help the poor. And if they do not do that, they are out of today's debate. In terms of definition, there are two things that we would do to clarify the debate. The first is on regional inequality. What exactly it is? It refers to different levels of economic activities and welfare among subnational regions within a state. This is according to issue 38 of the IMF working papers in volume 2021. But second definition is on equitable frameworks. This refers to structures that acknowledge that there is a certain disadvantage among some certain regions and seeks to correct it. I would show you two arguments to prove these bodies. Timmy will tell you about suspensions. The first thing is that imposing the same rules across states that have different capacities is injustice. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics in November 2022, a report published, 65% of Nigerians that are poor currently live in the northern region of the country. This means four things. Firstly, that poor states cannot afford enough IGR because they are going to have more citizens that do not pay tax. Because according to the new reform, those who earn below 800,000 naira per annum are tax exempt. This means that inflation, which is still happening currently, will mean that revenue might look high on paper, but in reality, these people will become poorer. But secondly, the large agrarian informal sector in these places that is already called nuisance tax and is already scrapped, means that these state governors like Jigawa, like Sokoto, lose enough revenue that is enough, for their day-to-day running of their activities. The second thing to tell you on that is that they become more dependent on the federal government, which is bad for them. Thirdly, applying the same reform to Sokoto and Lagos State is not unequal. It's not equal. It is injustice. It is something that we do not want. But lastly, even though there is a 4% development levy that is in section 59 of the proposed act, it then means that it only legitimizes dependency on the federal government and other states for survival. See how you plunge these people into more poverty. The second argument is that the reforms will eventually collapse without adequate frameworks. The Nigerian Tax Act of 2025 aims to streamline tax administration and raise the revenues of the country. But in reality, three things happen. For the very fact that you have a Sokoto with a 91% population that is still in poverty, and on those states, that where I come from, that is 27%, according to the multidimensional poverty index of the UNDP in 2022. It means there is a big lacuna that must be filled, and it can only be filled by infrastructure and development and real investment. Secondly, economic viability in states like Abuja, in states like Lagos, means that the people will always want to migrate to those places, which means you're going to have overcrowding in those cities, which will strain their resources significantly. But lastly, even if all the frameworks are good, as opposition might say, the negative reception and perception to the policy, like already evidenced by the northern governors' resistance to it, means that people would lose trust in government. But secondly, they are likely to find ways to frustrate implementation. Implementation is what we want, and you are not going to get it on opposition's word. What is our solution? Two things. First, we will prioritize human capital development. Amend Part 9, Section 56 of this proposed policy to make businesses tax exempt in places in the north like Jigawa State. So it means more infrastructure in those places, means more jobs for them. But secondly, reject the informal sector, make it taxable so that these people, instead of sending their goods to Lagos, can process it locally. Secondly, correct the tax administration. Tax wealthy individuals more. According to Oxfam reports on the 15th of October 2024, 99% of Nigeria's wealthy people do not pay taxes. They evade taxes. These are the real culprits. Hold them to book. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, suspension is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the only way to get reform and justice. Proud to propose.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, we'll call on the first speaker of Kwara State University. Please put your hands together for Yusuf Fasilat. You have 5 minutes, and the timer is right in. Nigeria, the heartbeat of Africa. Imagine a bustling market where we have market women selling handmade goods. Nearby, a young entrepreneur is dreaming of expanding his small business, but he is weighed down with confusion and inconsistent tax rules. Meanwhile, in the cities, corporate businesses are enjoying smoother processes. Now, this is imbalance. This very imbalance is what this current tax reforms is here to correct and not deepen. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished judges, before you are here today is Yusufa Sajeke from the world-class university, Kwara State University, Malete, and I'm here to strongly oppose the motion that states tax reform policies deepen regional inequalities and should be suspended until an equitable framework is established. Now, before I dive in, let me define some keywords. Tax reform policies. It is a legislative change under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that is signed into the law on the 26th of June 2025, which is going to take effect on the 1st of January 2026. And this reforms aims to increase revenue generation, provide relief for low-income earners, and improve its administration. Now, let's talk about regional inequalities. Regional inequalities simply means disparities, and disparities means the difference in economic services, infrastructures across all regions. Now, suspension. Suspension is an immediate halt on all in the implementation of these reforms. Now, my audience, I would like to ask you all a question. A law has just been signed. It is yet to be implemented. How can you conclude that it is going to deepen inequalities? Unless you know that there are existing inequalities already. And it is actually those existing inequalities that this reform is here to correct. Now, constitutionally, according to the 1999 Nigerian Constitution, Section 2, Chapter 80 and 120, it already provides a fair framework for taxation, assigning powers to the federal, the state, and the local government. These reforms aims on harmonizing. These reforms actually aligns with this constitution by harmonizing Nigerian tax laws. This is not about deepening inequalities, it is actually about correcting it. Now, secondly, these reforms actually includes progressive measures that protect the vulnerable groups. Ask me how. The personal income tax exemption threshold has been raised to 1 million naira by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, shielding the low-income earners, many of whom reside in underserved regions. Essential goods such as education, utility, healthcare, and others have been exempted from value-added tax VAT. This is going to reduce the burdens on the poor, because my opposition was saying that this reforms is going to make the poor poorer and the rich richer. Now think about it. These poor people, they've been exempted from value-added tax, from education, utility, healthcare. Now, is this not actually inclusive? This reform, are they not actually inclusive? Like, ask yourself that question. Moving forward, Nigeria already suffers from a weak tax to GDP ratio of 8 to 10%. Now, by 2026, these reforms aims to increase this by 18%, providing the government resources to invest in education, roads, infrastructure across the country. Now, as a concerned citizen of Nigeria, okay, you said this reforms is we actually deepen regional inequalities. Now it is a burden. Now, how do we solve it? I'm suggesting 3 good models that, if it is implemented, these reforms will actually be inclusive for all. Number 1, harmonize this tax policy and avoid duplication by the state and the local governments. Number 2, we all know the power of technology. Now, technology compliance, we ensure technology-driven enforcement. We ensure that there is no corruption, and it is actually going to erode evasion. You understand? Now, lastly, exemptions and incentives should be given to underserved regions. This is going to stimulate growth across all regions. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's think, if we can achieve all of this that I've mentioned with this reform, why should we suspend it? Because don't forget, suspension is actually a immediate halt on the implementation of these reforms. Everybody is progressing. This is 2025. How can you say we should continue with, you're talking about inequalities. How can we say we should continue with all of these things? And we are actually progressing, you understand? Thank you very much. And I'm going to leave you all with a question, that these reforms, should they actually be suspended? Thank you. Right. Thank you very much, Kwara State University. We'll now call on the second speaker of Federal University of Technology, Akure. Please put your hands together for Timileyin Arogundade.
Imagine roofing one side of a building and expecting we not to enter. That is what tax reform does. It protects some region while it exposes the other. Standing on the existing protocol is Arogundade Timileyin from the prestigious University of Technology, Akure, and I will be supporting today's motion. The biggest burden in today's debate is to show how regional inequality is caused by this new tax reform. The biggest mistake opposition is getting is that they are basing this tax reform based on the individual. We are saying that inequality exists, but this tax reform deepens it more. We know example of inequality effect is the emancipation of the Niger Delta, who call for secession because of inequality that exists. According to the statistic by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, states like Lagos, states like Rivers, states like FCT generate value-added tax 60% more, while some states manage to get 1%. Now, when you want to make a policy, stating policy for unequal region, we have to know that there is tax exemption for states like in the north because they bring agricultural produce because they are perishable. So what happens is that they generate less VAT. Now, the new tax policy, how does it work? It is based on a formula: 50% shared equally, 30% shared placed on consumption, and 20% placed equally. It then means that states that consume more and generate more value added tax are the ones that are still going to get more benefit. Therefore, regional inequality deepens. But what we say from proposition is that set some equitable frameworks. Don't let this state depend heavily on the federal government. Establish them, make the solution you want, let it be sustainable so that we get a long-lasting solution. So that even though we know that inequality exists in Nigeria, let's bring something that we not even see deepens it. That is the body they need to prove. Now, the first case we get is that they say it's going to generate more funding. In our own world, it exists because tax is continuous. We see generate more tax. But what we say is that before you reform a new tax that still deepens it, set some frameworks. What does these frameworks look like? As my partner has said earlier, it means facing of the reform, meaning that reform must come in phases. Set up some policies that we actually help in bridging this. My partner already established that we are going to suspend. So why is suspension the key things? When you suspend, what happens is that federal government is forced to come to a dialogue with the rich state and poorer state. Therefore, we get maximum utility when we suspend because there is an urgent need to do so. What the proposition failed to understand that today's debate is about regional inequality. It's not about based on individual. So they fail on that. Another thing is they say that suspension creates policy uncertainty. We have to know that there are relief funds that exist in Nigeria. There are packages to cater for the needs. But this thing will still widen the gap. Compare Lagos State and FCT and Rivers to Borno, Jigawa. They are not on equal pedestal. They generate less taxes. Therefore, to tax Lagos more so that we get inequality. What creates the uncertainty is unstable nation, insecurity, protest, which makes region not to have investor. We want a Nigeria whereby there is unity in diversity, not any policy that still deepens the regional inequality that exists. And on this very note, we say vote opposition. Thank you.
Interesting submissions. Thank you, Federal University of Technology, Akure. Now we'll hear from the second speaker of Kwara State University. Please put your hands together for Joy and Yahaya.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and panel of judges. My name is Yahaya and Joy from Kwara State University. I'm here to strongly oppose the motion that says tax reform policies deepens regional inequalities and should be suspended until equitable framework is established. My opponent said tax reform policies increases cost of living. Let's be honest with each other. If tax is being suspended, if tax reform policies is being suspended, inflation will rise and government will not have revenues to subsidize essential needs for us. They also made mention that suspension of tax reform policies will give a solution. Honestly, it will just delay the works at which Nigeria is still at the developing rate. They are underdeveloped. They are not yet developed. Yes, we are developing. Yes, let's state it that way. We are developing, and you want us to suspend tax. My first point, actually, development requires steady revenues to build schools, hospitals, and construct roads. Oil revenue is collapsing drastically, and if we suspend tax reform policies, it will just put the nation into more debt. The country will keep borrowing money from other states. Inequality is not by suspension, cannot be solved by suspension, but can only be solved by implementation. So implementing laws like exempting students, petty traders from all this, we actually save us, we actually help a better tax reform policies. Let's talk about, in addition, international credibility and investment. A nation that suspends reform signals instability. Yes, signals instability. Investors will flee, companies will crash down, and works will vanish. Workers won't be able to work. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of suspending tax reform policies, government should create conflict relief policies, regional conflict relief policies that can help states that are under conflict and other problems solve their solution. And also they should create strong accountability and also environmental pollution amendment policies, so that they can be able to like all this Niger Delta, so they'll be able to solve their problem of environmental pollution. In conclusion, suspending tax reform policy is like refusing a medicine because it is bitter. It doesn't, the best solution is to reduce the dosage, not to throw away the cure that leads to equality, stability, and unity. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, we'll take the closing arguments now. Please put your hands together for the University of Federal University of Technology, Akure, as they take their closing argument.
Just as the last speaker said, when someone is sick, you should not give the person too much, or you should not give the person overdose. But the interest that you have in that instance is that when you give too much of this, it then makes it harder for the poorer Nigerians. In 2023, when subsidy was removed, it was a whole lot on these Nigerians, especially the poor. Things like inflation was skyrocketed. So even if they say that tax is something that would exempt the poor people, they are already paying it through their nose in other ways. What we say is that for you to have a reform that everyone can buy into, you should sit down carefully and take time to analyze and get the best that will not systematically push more people into poverty. This is what we tell you throughout our own speech. I have raised my voice for the Nigeria I want. How about you? Do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Federal University of Technology, Akure. I would now take the closing statement from Kwara State University. Please put your hands together for them. Please keep clapping until she gets here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think the proposition party do not actually understand the topic. Like, they are the proposition party. They are believing that this reform should be suspended, but they are yet talking about implementation. Implementation is actually my side. I'm against the motion that this reform should not be suspended. They should, like, there should be a continuous implementation, but they're actually digressing to my side. How? Now, you know, and I think they actually did not do their research well. Like, they're actually telling us histories. Like, you need to make your research about these reforms. They fail to actually mention any act, any reform, or about these tax reform policies. They didn't say anything about that. Now, I would say, if they actually make their research very well, you will know that these reforms, they are constitutionally grounded, socially inclusive. They protect low-income earners, and it is revenue generating. And you are complaining there is no bad road, no electricity, nothing. These are the government will get resources from revenues. And how do they get these revenues? You say it is going to make the poor poorer and make the rich richer. No. And he said that, thank you.
All right, please put your hands together for our debaters in the third round, from the Federal University of Technology, Akure, and Kwara State University. Please put your hands together for them. Okay, we'll take feedback from our judges really quickly.
Okay. So the first thing I would like to address is the use of scenarios. I really hope and I wish that our speakers would create more coherent scenarios. Most of the times these scenarios are just half painted and we actually do not get what they are trying to say. And the second is, I believe there's a language of debate, and I do not think I see that in this session. It was more of everyone was just speaking off their head. There was no statements. There were hardly any statements really backed by research. I could not get any source. Most of these statements sounded so unfounded, like, okay, this is a very huge statement. How did we come about this? There was really no so much, let me say, we didn't have so much sources to back this for this session of the debate. So I would, yes, and we just stick to time and all of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands together for our judges. We will now go right into the final round for this debate competition. And the topic for round 4 is the growing dominance of a single political party in Nigeria threatens multi-party democracy and political diversity. Arguing this point, we have teams from Prince Abubakar Aldu University and Reverend Father Moses Osio Adasu University. All right. So we'll be taking the first speaker from the proposition team, and the proposition team is from the Reverend Father Moses Osio Adasu University. Please put your hands together for Esther Dodo.
History never lies. In the First Republic, the Northern People Congress held unchecked dominance, opposition was weak, recession rose, and this monopoly of power led to the 1966 coup. In the Second Republic, the National Party of Nigeria rose to dominance, and in 1983, this same political party further manipulated electoral results that also led us to another military takeover. And just in our Fourth Republic, we also had PDP, who almost dangerously repeated history until APC took over. Now, one lesson is clear from all of this. Single party dominance in Nigeria has never brought about stability, only corruption, crisis, and also system collapse. And so the question that begs for an answer is this: if history has always punished a single party dominance in Nigeria, why then should we accept it today? Good day, panel of judges, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Esther Dodo, and I'm here to stand for the motion which says the growing dominance of a single political party in Nigeria is a threat to multi-party democracy and political diversity. But before I delve into my argument, permit me to give conceptual clarification. According to Oxford Dictionary, dominance is the state of being too powerful and influential than others. And when we talk about a single political party here, we do not mean a constitutional implied single state party, but where a situation where a single political party in Nigeria has overwhelming dominance and is also marginalizing other political parties. Nigeria is constitutionally a multi-party state, and the extent of single party dominating the political space limits this intent to the following point. First, it weakens opposition. Opposition is very important in democracy, as they help to check the ruling government. They also help to bring alternative for citizens. However, when citizens no longer have choices to make and a particular political party gains dominance, it makes the other parties to be mere spectators, as they cannot compete with this party. For instance, in Nigeria, PDP had elections from 1999 to 2015, and it became a miracle when APC won. And currently, APC is in power and has dominance, which is weakening the visibility of other political parties in Nigeria. Let me take you on a voyage of history. In 2019, our 91 political parties participated in the elections. However, what happened after the election? 74 were deregistered. Why were they deregistered? Because they failed to perform the minimum registration after the election because of their poor performance in the election. And this poor performance cannot be unlinked to the suffocating dominance of the big parties. And also, opposition might want to say that the
Dominating party does not limit other smaller parties. While this is sweet in history and in theory, we need to know that in practice it is not so. Because these parties use the political influence they have, the state resources, media coverage to get what they want. Secondly, it reduces political choices and also undermines credibility. We see that for a multi-party democracy to operate, then states and citizens need to have multi-choice. But in Nigeria, for instance, in Akwa Ibom State, we have PDP that ruled from 1999 down to 2025, 26 years, alongside with Delta State, and their governors just defected in 2025 and get the party to went to APC, the ruling party. We have Borno State, where ANPP and APC has been ruling since 1999 down to this year, which is 26 years. How then can we say that these parties do not have dominance, and dominance, a single party dominance is not affecting Nigeria? I'll go to my third point. Because opposition might want to say that reducing political parties will help streamline balloting. However, they need to know that democracy is not a matter of convenience. It is a matter of choice. And thirdly, defections kills diversity. In Nigeria alone, in this year, we have Governor Umo Emo. He defected from PDP where he came to APC, the ruling party. We also have Governor Des Umahi, who defected from PDP to APC. We have 4 senators in the House of Assembly who also defected to APC. And we've also had 8 House of Representative members that have also defected to APC. And I want to tell you that this will go on and on if a single party gets dominance in Nigeria. And here are the recommendations that we give. First of all, the electoral systems in Nigeria should be strengthened, and each party should give access to media resources equally. And secondly, the constitutional framework should be made to protect the independence of opposition political parties, and also to stiffen and also prevent the jumping and cross-carpeting that politicians do for opportunity's sake. We have to bring safeguards in Nigeria that would correct and also punish politicians that come to cross-market easily. And so, for us to get the Nigeria that we want, we must understand that political diversity is key. Thank you.
Interesting opening argument from the proposition party. We will now take the opening argument from the opposition party. Please put your hands together for Olu Lawrence Ayomi Posi Iyola Oluwa from Prince Abubakar Audu University.
Dominance, not dictatorship. Strength, not suppression. Fact that a political party has widespread support for other political parties does not connote that there is a threat for other political parties. Today, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I am Olu Lawrence Ayomi from Prince Abubakar Audu University, and I stand here to vehemently contend against the motion that states that the growing dominance of a single political party in Nigeria guarantees or threatens the democratic multi-party system and diversity political party. First, the Constitution is clear, right, and unambiguous. 1999 Constitution, which the country runs in Section 40, provides for the freedom of association as well as the right to join different political parties, alias political diversity. The Constitution is the ground norm and the source from which every other law gets validity. So whatever the Constitution states, whatever it solidifies stands like that, and nothing changes it. The threat is just a mere speculation. Number 2, dominance of political parties in Nigeria is cyclical, not permanent. It's only a passing season, not a graveyard. In 1999, when Nigeria kick-started its democracy, the People's Democratic Party took over power and led for 16 years. In 2008, then National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Vincent Ogulafo, had projected that the People's Democratic Party would rule Nigeria for 60 years uninterrupted. Just 7 years after that, what happened? Power dropped. And the APC, All Progressive Congress, took over power. Do you call that a single party system? A multi-party system is one where we have multiplicity of parties contending for power. If the PDP could run for 16 long years, and then a party who came out of their haven was able to destabilize them and unseat an incumbent government under the PDP administration, Does that question the solidity of a multi-party system in Nigeria? It should be noted that the multi-party system is well entrenched and deeply rooted, and nothing threatens it, not even a mere speculation. Therefore, political dominance is not born out of subjugation. Political dominance is political maturity and strength. It is not a threat in any way. However, I will explain to you what exactly threatens Nigerian multi-party democracy and political diversity. One, the lack of well-structured leadership in political space, and two, the lack of united members, that is, ethnic and religious crises and tensions. For political parties to contend with others and for them to have a solidified competition, an wholesome competition among each other to compete in the highest level, they must establish a well-organized leadership from the grassroots level up to the national level. There is no way a political party will be able to contend if it doesn't have a good standing. The Labour Party, for instance, in the last election, only 7 months to the presidential election, reshuffled their leadership, and you know what happened? They pulled over 7 million votes to the awe of many. Look at it this way. For the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressive Congress, who seem to be the two most dominating parties in Nigeria, they have a well-structured leadership, and their organized leadership spans from the grassroots up to the national level, which is why it's claimed to be dominant. And the question here is not whether or not there is dominance. The question is whether or not the dominance actually threatens all the multi-party system. That is the question here. Secondly, ethnic bigotry, religious tensions and crises must be eradicated. No political party must be established under on ethnic interest or mere religious interest. Look at it. The ABGA, the Labour Party, is known to be a regional party for the eastern part. Before the last elections, last democratically held elections in 2023, they had no waters to hold in their baskets. And what happened? But later on, we've seen that they could do more with their growing unity and their leadership. Therefore, the aim and the claim that the dominance of a single party in Nigeria threatens multi-party democracy and political diversity is nothing but a grave overstatement. Thank you.
Interesting submission from the opposition party. We will now take the second speaker from the proposition party. Please put your hands together for Blessing Oigaba. Please sustain the applause until she gets here. Remember, you have 3 minutes and the timer is right in front of you.
The opposition government said that the strength of a single party is not permanent but temporary. But the APC has been in power. Is that so? A plant requires water and sun to thrive. But when there is excessive sun, it dries. And when there is excessive water, it's uprooted. This is what happens when a single party dominates the will of the people. For clarity, we are not against a strong party, but rather we are saying that the dominance of a political party is a problem and a threat to democracy. I'm going to talk on, my name is Oigaba Blessing Ehigocho, and I'm going to talk on 3 salient points. First, it is a threat. It breeds authoritarian tendency. Lord Acton once said, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. Without credible opposition, the will of the leader becomes absolute. Look at North Korea under the Kim dynasty. One party, one family, one voice. This has led to repression, lack of freedom, and fear in the society. Let us look at Nigeria, where the dominant party suppressed opposition rally, like Natasha Opusa's visit to her constituency. Only to talk about Peter Obi, who was denied access to Benue State. Carry out his humanitarian visits. Why? Because he belongs to opposition party. And the opposition is here telling us that the dominance is not a threat. Second, it creates tendency of a one-party state. Democracy thrives on competition and choice. Dominance of a single party kills political diversity. When there's there is no political diversity, citizens become apathetic in the society. Third, it violates the constitutional mandate of a multi-party system. Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution guarantees the freedom of association, guarantees the right to form and join any political party of one's choice. But this is not so in the society. Just recently in Lagos State, the ADC had a congress where they wanted to communicate, and Lagos State APC shut down the hall. This is not democracy. This is dictatorship wearing democratic clothes. Ibi remedium. Where there is a right, there is a remedy. Political participation political participation. When there's political participation, when there's the right to political participation, and there's a dominant political party, then there is no right to democracy. Before I leave the stage, if the House is going to agree with the opposition here today, then I leave the question in the hearts of everybody here today. If the opposition party are removed, then who is going to checkmate the dominant party? Thank you.
All right, we'll now hear from the second speaker of the opposition party. Please welcome Yisa Precious Hankuri. Please put your hands together for her. She comes.
Good morning, esteemed judges, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yisa Precious Hankuri, and I'm from the prestigious university, Prince Abubakar Audu University. And I will be standing firmly against the motion which says that the growing dominance of a political party is a threat to multi-party democracy and political diversity. Democracy is just like a busy Nigerian market where every trader offers their goods for sale. Some traders sell more because people prefer them. Now, other traders, this does not displace the market structure in place because other traders still have their space to sell. That's how multi-party democracy is. Democracy is not a threat. It is preference, and preference is not a threat. Multi-party democracy is a system where multiple parties contest and campaign for elections. It's guaranteed by Section 40 and 221 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended. And it was supported by the case INEC versus Musa in the year 2003. It was decided by the Supreme Court that says that Nigeria practiced a multi-party system. Now look at, if dominance was actually a threat, what happened in 2023 should not happen. APC, despite being the ruling party, Labour Party was able to shake Lagos and Abuja. NNPP was able to hold on to Kanu. ABGA was able to hold on to Anambra. If dominance was actually a threat, these victories should not be recorded. Political diversity is not threatened in any way. We still have records of alternative ideas, alternative ideologies. Smaller parties are being allowed to progress in their own regions. If so, let's check, according to Premium Times in 2023, the National Assembly currently now, APC has about 176 seats. Labour Party has about 35 seats. ABGA has about 5 seats. PDP has about 119 seats. Now, will you tell me that all these parties, they are from the same ethnic group? Are they sharing the same ideology? Are they sharing the same ideas? This is political diversity in play. We also have the Senate House where APC has 60 seats. Labour Party has 8 seats. PDP has 37 seats. Will they say the same thing? Will they speak the same thing? This is political diversity in place. Democracy is just the people's choice at that particular time. Who knows? The people will change their decision, and the people will change their decision, and this dominant party will cease to exist. What I want to tell you is that the growing dominance of a political party does not threaten democracy in any way. The real threat here is them to actually restructure their leadership structure, the ethnic and religious sentiment. Moved. ABGA can never represent the national level because they are more concerned with representing the Igbos. But APC represents all over. You can find a Muslim, you can find a Christian, you can find somebody that is not even Igbo there. You can find a northerner, you can find a southerner there. You can find an easterner person there. So don't be deceived. Dominance is not a threat. It is actually telling us the survival of democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Interesting submissions from both the proposition and opposition teams. We will now take the closing argument from the proposition team. Please make welcome Esther Dodo.
I constantly hear my opposition say that dominance is not a threat. Let me tell you, just the day before yesterday, 4th of September, in Kaduna State, ADC members were summoned by the state CID. Why? What was their offense? For causing, inciting public nuisance, criminal instigation, and so many other things that they said. How can you say that they are not a threat? I give you another example. In Lagos State, the ADC wanted to use a venue for their meeting and they have fulfilled all requirements. But guess what? The venue was sealed by the APC. Do you want to now say that that is not a threat? Also, you say that dominating party is a choice. My God, we are in Nigeria. When was the last time you voted and the party you voted for won? When was the last time you did not know who was going to win the election? It is more visible to the blind and audible to the deaf that in Nigeria, the voters have no choice because the dominating party always have their way. Thank you.
All right. We will take the final and closing argument from the opposition party. Please make welcome Blessing Oigaba.
The opponents have spoken a lot, but the main thing is they have not drawn the thin line between democracy and multi-party democracy. Multi-party democracy is when multiple systems actually campaign and contest for election. They are claiming that corruption is the child of a bad leadership. When no matter how dominant APC was, in 2019, Zamfara lost APC candidates. The Supreme Court brought in the PDP candidate. Are you telling me that the Supreme Court will not be able to say anything in the matter of ADC at hand? There's nothing like threat. What is the problem here is the weak leadership structure. Dominance is not a threat. Let us check it and address it properly instead of talking and looking for problem where there's no problem. Thank you.
All right. Let us stop looking for problem where there is no problem. Okay. Please once again put your hands together for the debaters in this round 4. And I'd like us to put our hands together for all our debaters. I think that they have done a phenomenal job today. Well done, debaters. We will now take feedback from our judges.
All right, yes. I guess we saved the best for the last. If you agree with me, the last speaker proved that we just entered the debate mood. Please jam your hands together for these debaters. That's how debates should be. Debates are not about emotions or the noise or the energy. It's about how clear you are about your points. She brought in the data, she was giving the rebuttals, and she was not ashamed to bring in consistent use of figures from various scenarios. And that's what debating is all about. Make no doubt, debating is not easy. Honestly, you need to face the audience, you need to remember your point. At the point, we even had a debater who almost forgot that the stairs had exhausted. She almost fell. Guess what? She maintained her steez, and that's debating. That's how debating should be. However, it's very, very important to also cut the use of some colloquials. You guys, panels, panelists, they don't exist here today. Still came back and said, standing on existing. I mean, that's a criminal offense right now. I mean, we all agreed that it is not a thing. It does not exist. You should not say that you are standing on any existing protocol. Also important for us to note that it was at this last round that we saw someone quote the Constitution appropriately and correctly. Please jam your hands together again for those set of debaters. Very important. Let us also watch out for how we present analogies. It's also not correct to say voters have no choice, and that the vote, when was the last time you voted, and your votes count. It's not a right analogy to use. Votes count, because if you don't cast them, they cannot assume those votes for you. Voters do have choices. You can choose not to vote. You can choose to vote whichever party you want to vote for. Even though that has its own consequences, which is also bad, but voters have choices. Votes do count, and there are times I've voted, and those I voted eventually won, and there are times those I voted did not win. So those are not correct analogies. So it speaks to the scenarios that my colleague raised the other time about we using appropriate scenarios and illustrations and analogies to support our point. Very, very important. Again, at the point, debaters almost missed their cause. Keep to the conversation. It is not a conversation between dictatorship and democracy. It is about single-party dominance and multi-party political diversity. The fact here is not that democracy is not existing. We are saying, is there a growing dominance? In fact, the debate topic did not establish the dominance. It says growing dominance. That means it's a continuum. It is not established yet. You saw how APC unseated PDP. Shows that the growth and dominance of PDP ended almost at that point. And then people came out to start tearing their party cards. That almost ended the growing dominance of PDP. And then we now probably saw the growing dominance of APC. Only for it to be challenged again by the emergence of Labour Party, isn't it? And then we saw the growing dominance. So if you want to talk about dominance, the fact is that it is growing. It is not at any peak. It is not at any absolute, right? So, and it is not a conversation of democracy versus dictatorship. Again, it's also important to say dominance exists, yes, then the dominance is not a threat. No, the topic already established that there is a growing dominance that is constituting a threat. It is not your job as a debater to now say it does not exist. Your job is to defend your own part, whether you are the opposition or you are in the proposition. Your job is to defend which part of that conversation you are to support, not to say that the topic does not exist. Because saying that, oh, there is dominance, but the dominance does not constitute a threat, means that the topic does not exist, and that what we are discussing is void. Again, very important to note that at this time, allow me to mention this. You know, if a child does well, it's important to mention. It is only not nice to rub the mistakes of people in their faces. Esther Dodo rightly quoted, you know, just like so many other debaters, but allow me to cite that specifically, the number of deregistered political parties in Nigeria. Please join us together again for her. Thank you so much. And she was able to, you know, refer to how many, you know, members of House of Representatives at each time. She cited that 2 times, and that was rightly confirmed. We fact-checked it, and that's correct. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure we enjoyed today's debate.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for our judges once again. And then another round of applause for our debaters. Okay, so while our judges are compiling the results, I'd like to call on one of the alumni of the Youth Leadership Development Program to give a testimonial. Trying to see. Please put your hands together as we welcome Olaoluwa Babalola. Okay, I don't see him at this moment. Please, can someone help us get him? He was standing right there just now. All right, so while we wait for Olaoluwa to come and give his testimonial, I'd like to give a chance to a few members of the audience to share some of their opinions on the topics that have been debated today. If you have an opinion that you'd like to share, please raise your hand. Oh, okay. We have someone over there. Can we get the second mic to him, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
The point I want to contribute are basically on the first point to talk about oil exploration and renewable energy. I must give thumbs up to the analogy being used by the debaters from both parties. However, I'll be a bit on the supporting side for the oil exploration. Why am I on that side? Two key reasons. The first one is because I noticed the fact that in oil exploration gives birth to a lot of byproducts that wind, water, and other form of renewable energy will not give you. Can wind give you plastic raw materials? No. Can wind give you sources for raw materials for your textile? No. But when you get oil and explore oil, you're not only getting just oil fuel, you're also getting petrol, you're also getting kerosene, you're also getting raw materials for so many things. And so you're killing 50 birds with one stone. With renewable energy, you can't get that. For the second point, which has been touched a bit by other parties, it talks about this argument of clean. How clean is clean energy? And so I'll be referring to a Financial Times report in August 2025. In that report, they said that the Tesla Model and different electronic vehicle that have been produced by different BYD and others, they were using rare metals to be able to get source materials for the lithium ion and different batteries that they used to create their machinery. And when they did an in-depth research on it, they found out that these rare metals are not rare metals because they are lacking on our world. They are plenty, but they are rare metals because when you dig deep and get them, you affect the environment around them. And so in China and Venezuela, which have the highest deposit of this metal and these resources, it's affecting their environment so much that the government is now thinking about how can we get the best of both worlds in renewable energy while ensuring our environment is good enough. So yes, oil also has to spoil the environment, but I cannot say clean energy is as clean as you assume is it. That's basically my contribution to it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together for him. I like the fact that he also quoted some facts. Very good. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll now take the testimonial from Olaoluwa Babalola. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olaoluwa Olagoke Babalola, and going to be talking about my Leap Africa experience. Contrary to what a lot of people think, I am not a part of this particular change project. I have participated in a change project with Leap Africa before, for those who are familiar with their structure, but I am not a part of this particular one. However, I am conference director for this program, and I have insight into both the first and this particular one. Has anyone ever taken a change project in Leap Africa before? Apart from the debaters, obviously, has anyone ever participated in a Leap Africa project before? Just one person? Two people? Okay. So I would say I took mine very early. I think I was in 300 level when I did. And I would say it was the first practical insights that I got into social impact. Volunteering at the beginning for most people is performative action. You go on Twitter, you go on LinkedIn, you write Eco Warrior, Green Champion, SDG 4, SDG 8. An average person doesn't even know what SDG 8 stands for, but because everybody uses it, you use it also. You use all of those hashtags, all of those, you volunteer for cleanup drives, and you take more pictures than litters that you picked, and you post it on LinkedIn and say it was a very insightful experience, and things like that. It's mostly performative action. And it started like that for me. I just wanted to stack my CV, yeah, and look good for social media. But then I realized that social impact, in its very essence, exists because of a failure of governance. Ordinarily, it shouldn't be something that is so glorified. It shouldn't be something that we should be excited to do in the first place, because the reason why social impact exists is because policies have failed, the government has failed, our institutions have failed. So it shouldn't be a replacement for quality education. SDG 4 shouldn't be a replacement for education in the first place. And that's why at the end of the day, regardless of how much cleanup drives you do, how much recycling that you do, how much taking children off the streets that you do, it cannot directly change Nigeria's ranking on the scale of poorest countries, or countries with the largest amount of illiteracy, or countries with the largest amount of children that are out of school, because it's a failure of the government in the first place. And Leap Africa helped me get insight into that. It helped me understand that for a lot of these problems, they are structural problems, they are systemic problems. You do not just get involved in those cleanup drives. You have to advocate. You have to practice what you preach first. You promote environment. I'm sure if I ask how many people promote the environment here, you probably, half the room will probably have their hands up. You promote the environment, but then you throw your litter everywhere. Yeah, you do not recycle. So at the end of the day, it starts with you. You have to practice what you preach first. You have to incorporate those practices. Don't just be an environmental advocate when it's time for cleanup drive. Yeah, incorporate it into your daily life. You still buy sachet nylon. You don't use reusable bags. You charge your phone overnight, which is something I'm sure 99% of the people in the room do. That actually contributes to so many factors that affect the environment. Little things like that can actually create change, but it is when a very large amount of people do it that it can make a significant difference. And it starts with you. It starts with speaking to other people around you. Leap Africa, taking a course with Leap Africa helped me get insight into those things. So I would recommend this for everyone in the room. If you've not taken anything out of this program, if you've not learned anything at all, which I'm sure there's nobody that would say that anyways, but if you've not learned anything at all since you get here, I want you to go up to their website now. Yeah, look at the courses they have available, check for when next they are going to be putting out this YRDP program, and make sure you sign up. Make sure you sign up for this program. Set a reminder, bookmark their website or something. Make sure you sign up for this program. It will give you insight into public policy, insight into governance, insight into social impact, insight into environmental impact, insight into so many things. It will give you a well-rounded understanding. You realize that social impact is not just posting on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, but creating change, being the change you want to see in the world, creating change that affects you, that affects your immediate community, and affects the global world. Thank you very much.
Please put your hands together once more for Olaoluwa Babalola. All right. Okay, fantastic. So he said it starts with you. Don't just do things to look good on social media. There are a few of us that still do those things, right? We put up the caption very beautifully and put it on LinkedIn. Let it not end there. Be the change that you want to see in Nigeria. We're all advocating for the Nigeria we want, but it would not be possible if all of us do not get actively involved in the change that we want to see in Nigeria. So please visit our website, www.leapafrica.org. That is leapafrica.org. www.leapafrica.org. You can also follow us on social media, X, Instagram, Facebook, at Leap Africa, LEAP Africa. All right, I'd like to take another comment from the audience. If you have any thoughts on some of the topics that have been debated today, please raise your hand so that we can bring the microphone to you. If I don't get any volunteers, I'll just walk up to somebody. You're all representing, not all, some of you are representing constituencies here at the Model Assembly. So I am sure that you have opinions. I heard you people yesterday and day before yesterday. I was here, I witnessed as you all impeached the Senate President. My God. We resumed yesterday morning and the first thing we would like to impeach. I said, you don't mean it. After how many sittings? Wow. So please let somebody volunteer or I will come to anybody with my microphone. All right. Second microphone. Can we go to the gentleman over there wearing a gray attire? He's looking right at me. He's wearing, yes, a neck piece, white neck piece with glasses. Yeah. Was he the one that moved the motion yesterday? I'm trying to remember. I know that he has a few thoughts for us. I'd like you to share your thoughts on some of the topics that have been debated today, or any other topical issues that are currently being discussed in our nation, Nigeria. Please give him the microphone. He was here yesterday and the day before yesterday. So share your thoughts on some of the bills that you have discussed in the last 2 days.
Okay, good day everyone. Dada Favor, Senator Dada Favor. I think, first of all, I would like to commend this program, the YLDP program, because personally, that I have followed from social media and also from different places, and it's something that it aligns with my vision, aligns with my goals, in which I believe that one day I will join or I plan to achieve. And I think one of the topics they spoke about today, that they debated on, renewable energy, and this is one of the topics that in recent times, especially in the United Nations, it has been coming up back to back, because we can see that climate change is one of the things affecting us both health-wise, mentally, financially, as a country, as a whole. So I believe climate change is something that everyone should take as a personal action, should take it individually. And here we are today modeling the National Assembly. In a few years' time, majority of us will be in politics, majority of us will be policy implementers, policy makers, and different other things. And these are ways in which we train ourselves, so when we get to there, we make changes for renewable energy. Like one of the speakers spoke about how petroleum is affecting the world, how petroleum is part of the dangers affecting climate action and everything. And I feel like these are also things we need to implement into our everyday life, because change begins from home, change begins from little, and when we get to the top, we're able to make policies that will affect us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands for him. Change begins with you, and charity, they say, begins at home. I know that sometimes when we speak about climate change, renewable energy, sometimes we wonder, what are these things? You know, it seems like it is above our head, but you can start by contributing your own little quota. Don't litter the environment. Recycle plastic waste. It is not that difficult. And I want to believe that when we step out of this hall today, we will not see any plastic bottle littering anywhere. We will not see any nylon bag on the floor anywhere. We would have properly disposed of all of these things. That is how you begin to contribute. When you're not using the light in your room, turn it off. Turn the socket off. Don't leave it running without anybody there. I know some of us have parents who hammer these things. You people left all the lights on. It is afternoon. What are you doing with the lights on? Even though they may not understand the rudiments of climate change and the jargon of it, they understand that we're not supposed to waste things. So let us stop wasting energy and let us renew as much as we can. All right, I'd like to take a statement from another senator in this model assembly. I can come to anybody, even the Senate president. I can give the mic to anybody at this point. Chief Whip. Okay, I love it. Chief Whip is ready. Please give her the microphone. share with us what your experience has been. Some of the bills that you guys have discussed, which of them stood out the most to you? What are your own opinions about some of these topics?
Good afternoon, distinguished senators. This is really, really insightful. Everything from day one till date is like when you think you have seen something, just wait for just a moment, not even the following day. You're going to experience another thing new. I will not forget to talk about those wonderful debaters from the schools that, I won't lie, there's one of the university, I just heard the name, but what they did, it's Nigerians youth, we are great. You call them anytime, anywhere, or you think maybe you don't know this school, you don't know where the school is, whether it's existing or not, but the people there will come and tell you that we are Nigerians. Call us anytime, we are ready. Regardless of the age, we have substance. We have something to give. So I'm happy having you all there. I'm happy that you are in the first university, and I'm so happy that when you came to University of Ibadan, you didn't just really show that, no, you want to look that they're the first. You did well. And we, University of Ibadan, we are happy to have you that truly it's not about university. Nigerian students are great. Great Nigerian students! Great Nigerian students! So I wouldn't really want to take most of the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief Whip. Please put your hands together for her. And I'd like to echo one of the major things she said. Nigerian youths are always ready. Anywhere in the world, call a Nigerian. We're ready. Even if we don't know the topic that we're discussing, we're ready. We will give you topic, and we will support it, and you will agree with us. Isn't it? We're ever ready. Please put your hands together for yourselves. All right, our judges are ready, and the results are ready. I must say that our debaters have done very well. So they're all winners in our eyes. And I want them to also know and believe that they're winners. Trust me, it is not easy to stand in front of people and debate. You will cram your points and come and be giving us data and quoting figure, and it has to be correct. Please put your hands together for them once again. Okay, so I'll hand the microphone over to our Chief Judge to announce the results. Please put your hands together for her as she comes up. We can do better.
Great Nigerian students! Are you sure? The energy don't drop. Great Nigerian students! Greatest Bobo! All right, I know you have had a great time, and I would first appreciate these debaters. You did a great job. I know you have also taken into consideration some of the things that have been highlighted. One of our judges just whispered to me, so let me just echo it, that you have something else waiting for you. We'll share the link with you so that maybe you'll be the next that will be in UK. So please meet us at the camera. So, not camera now, because they're like, hey, everybody will know. Did you debate? Anyways, further information will be shared with us. Interestingly, we've had great time, and it is time to, don't worry, you know they did well. So, in no order in particular, but we want to announce the results for Onabisi Olabanjo University, Onabisi Onabanjo University. Please permit me with that. We had 25.96 points. For Lagos State University, that was in the opposition with the topic renewable energy investment should be prioritized over further oil exploration to ensure Nigeria's long-term economic and environmental sustainability. we had 26.63%. For the second round, we had constitutional reforms should be mandated to allow independent candidacy and diaspora voting ahead of 2027 elections. For University of Ibadan, the proposing side had 16.6%, and from the University of Ilorin, we had 18%. The third round, tax reform policies deepen regional inequalities and should be suspended until equitable frameworks are established. Federal University of Technology, Akure, had 18.1% and 18.1 points, please. Then, for Kwara State University, we had 18.2. The last round, which is the growing dominance of a single political party in Nigeria, threatening multi-party democracy and political diversity. For Prince Abubakar Adu University, we had 26.1, and Reverend Father Moses Orosho Adasu, I think after now I'll come and learn how to pronounce that name, had 30.6. Like we said, they did a great job. For this competition, this is Southwest North Central round. So the points will be compared across other zones so that the top 6 will meet at the semi-finals. I don't know whether that is taken. So for now, we had the top 3 scores, 30.6 from Reverend Father Moses Oshao Adasu University. Then we have 26.6 from Lagos State University, and we have 26.1 from Prince Abubakar Adu University. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Please put your hands together for our judges once more. All right, to wrap us up, I'd like to call on, for the closing remarks, I like to call him Honorable, so permit me. I'd like to call on Honorable Haruna Godia, Policy and Programs Coordinator at LEAP Africa. Please put your hands together for him as he comes up.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon. I'm here to take the closing remarks. The SUG President, University of Ibadan, the Senate President of the Nigerian Model National Assembly, the Deputy Senate President of the Nigerian Model National Assembly, distinguished senators, delegates of the Nigerian Model National Assemblies, our amazing panelists, that's the panel of judges, our extraordinary debaters, partners, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure I present these closing remarks at the Southwest North Central Regional Quarterfinals for the Youth Leadership Debates. For the past 3 days, we have convened in the University of Ibadan to firstly witness the Nigerian Model National Assembly 2025 conference with the theme, Legislating the Future, Youth Redefining National Priorities for a Sustainable Nigeria. Secondly, to hold the debates competition, which you will all agree with me, it has been super amazing, fiery, and insightful. From my observation and participation in some sessions Model Assembly, and also listening to the debaters, it greatly gladdens my heart to see youth leading innovation and rising to the great responsibility bestowed upon them, because this is not just another activity or exercise in futility, but a commitment to practical leadership, youth development, inspiring and empowering the next generation of leaders that will shape policies and lead positive change. Indeed, this brings to life the assertion of Margaret Mead, which says, "Never doubt a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has." At this juncture, please let us give a round of applause to the amazing team that organized these programs. Thank you. For the conference delegates, the legislative arm of government is a critical symbol of unity, inclusivity, and representation. And I dare to say it is the bastion of democracy because of its critical contributions to citizens' life. No wonder the first casualty during any military rule or political upheaval is the legislature. Therefore, as you go back, I commend you to build alliances, bridges, and networks. Trust in the process, but above all, do everything and anything here for God and country. For the debaters, I commend you to continue on this journey of excellent public speaking, policy and evidence-based research, and nation building. All I can say to you is, all of you are winners. As I close, please do well to follow us on all social media platforms and sign up for our newsletters through our website on www.leapafrica.org. On behalf of Leap Africa and partners, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Haruna Godia, for that closing remark. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the debates competition. Please put your hands together once more for our debaters. I'd also like to thank our judges. Please put your hands together for them. I'd like to thank you in the room. Please put your hands together for yourselves. And of course, we'd also like to thank our online attendees. Please put your hands together for them. And finally, would like to thank Leap Africa, the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, MacArthur Foundation, Ford Foundation, and Luminate for making this possible. Once again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I am Joy Igbinedion, and I look forward to seeing you all at the semi-finals. Thank you, and God bless.